welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about my first 6 months as a therapist actually seeing clients. Woo! Okay, so if you're new to this channel, welcome. This is Tech to Therapy, where I talk about my transition working in startups and now becoming a mental health therapist. And on this channel, I also talk about a lot of random things like weightlifting, my experience being mixed race, and literally anything else that is kind of on my mind for that week. So if you're interested, subscribe. But today I wanted to talk about my experience being in practicum. So to recap, I've been in graduate school to become a mental health therapist for 3 years, and it's only been the last year that I'm finally seeing clients. I think today marks almost exactly 6 months since I saw my first client. It's like a big milestone in my experience because, I've been talking about this with my peers and students for literally so long. 2 years of talking about what it's like to have a client sit in front of you, and finally it's happening, and I've been doing it for 6 months, and I wanted to share my experience with you. So I've organized my thoughts into like 3 main points or lessons that I've learned in the past 6 months when I reflect on my experience seeing clients. So the first thing is like the weekly ebb and flow, aka, oh my gosh, are my clients talking to each other? So let me back up a little bit. So when I talk about the weekly ebb and flow, it's like the different emotional states me and my clients are in on a weekly basis. My therapist friends and I joke around that our clients secretly talk to each other and discuss what they're going to bring up in therapy, because that's what it feels like sometimes as a therapist. Like my client on Monday is saying almost exactly like the same thing as my client on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'm just like, what is going on? There's just some synchronicity happening between my clients that I cannot explain. I don't know how to explain it. Well, actually, in Gestalt therapy, there's a concept called field theory that kind of explains this phenomenon, but I won't go there. Sometimes I notice themes between my clients, like they're talking about similar things. Sometimes I'm noticing themes within myself, like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm always going over time this week, and things like that. It just really feels like every week is very different. The second thing that I thought about when I think of my last 6 months is the importance of like pre-session prep time. I don't really know what to call it. It's not prep because it's like the 10 minutes before I see a client, what am I gonna do? And that 10 minutes seems really important to me because it's the time that I can kind of slowly tune out everything else going on in my life to prepare myself to be present with my client when the session begins. And so I've tried different things like meditating, journaling. Recently I'm doing more like visualization kind of things, like what kind of vibe do I want to exude with this client today, and then kind of just like really channeling that energy. And it definitely makes a difference in my experience, like how I spend that 10 minutes before a session. Again, like I think I'm still figuring out what's the best for me. I don't know, when the textbooks say like the first 10 minutes pre-session is important, they're not kidding. It is really important to have some time to figure out what your thing is, to kind of like channel into your therapist mindset. Okay, and then the last thing that I think about when I reflect on my last 6 months is the importance of aftercare. When I talk about that, I mean like self-care, specifically for therapists. I think that self-care is part of the job, because if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not able to be there, like be present with my client or be as fully engaged if I'm just like really drained out from seeing all my other clients. So I feel more of a sense of responsibility to make sure that my self-care is working for me. In some ways that's good because I think I'm more intentional with my like free time. What is actually happening emotionally within me right now, and what do I think I need to process that, or do I want to just stay with this? I don't know, it's just a lot more, way more reflecting. Because in supervision, I'm reflecting about how I am in the moment with the client. In therapy, I'm also reflecting on my week And then I also have group supervision, so I'm also there's just like way more reflecting going on, and I think that's helping for me with my processing of like what's going on with the client, what's going on with me, and what do I need more of when I'm not a therapist to like show up and like have this be a sustainable job. So that's definitely really different from when I was working in tech. Well, most of the time I feel like when I was in tech, I was like exerted myself way too much, way too stressed out. And so by the time I come home, I can't even think about like, what's the best thing for me to do right now? I'm just like lying on the sofa, like barely can turn on the TV, and I'm watching whatever I can to just get my mind off the stress of work, which is so different from how I think about self-care now. Because if I'm in that type of state and I see a client, I'm probably not gonna be that present. And I think presence as a therapist is one of like the important things, at least for me right now. That's something that I'm constantly thinking about, and it's also probably the modality of Gestalt. It's really important to be aware of the type of contact I have with the client. And so yeah, I would say self-care is like has been pretty different for me now that I'm a therapist. I hope some of this was like interesting to see a little bit more of like what I'm thinking about and what I'm reflecting on like literally a daily basis. I probably think about all of these things. I definitely think about all of these things every day as a therapist now. So if you're interested in this field or you're already a student, hopefully that was a little helpful. Bye.